What's up, everybody? It's your friendly neighborhood game master, Zach Call here, back with another video in my Level Up Advanced 5th Edition series. This video, we're going to be checking out the Warlock from this class. Really excited to dive in to a more magical class after checking out the Adept, the version of the Monk for this system, and the Berserker, the Barbarian. If this video looks different than what you are used to, you are at the right channel. Some stuff has changed. Not going to talk about it in this video. You can check out in the description a link to another video on my channel explaining why I've rebranded, gone a different direction. But let's just jump right into reading, checking out the Warlock class for the Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. So I'm interested to see if this is a lot different than the Warlock we're kind of used to in 5th Edition. For your info, I really actually enjoy the Warlock. I think my main PC that I've kind of come up with in my head that I've never gotten to play because I'm a forever GM. I think he's a Warlock, and I would really like one day to be able to play Warlock. We'll see what happens. Not sure if that's ever really going to come to fruition. And the Warlock is one thing that I've kind of missed in Pathfinder 2nd Edition because that's not a class that really exists in Pathfinder. So I'm excited to see how the Warlock gets changed in Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. A lot of people dip, or I think the term is splash, into pretty common if your table allows multi-classing and you're trying to really maximize on some really cool stuff. I see it a lot in like campaigns that start at higher levels, like start at like a mid-tier level where you don't feel like you might not be sacrificing anything in your character. You just multi-class multiple times, because in 5th edition, the Warlock gets you some really cool stuff at first level, second level. So we'll see if any of that's changed. And fair warning, I haven't actually looked at the multi-classing rules for Level Up Advanced 5e yet. So it might still be a weakness of the system, and that we might tack that on to the end of this video, looking at multi-classing, just so we can kind of change our opinion if we need to. But let's just dive in. So Warlocks are still magic users that gain their magic from a powerful being, typically an otherworldly or supernatural entity. Relationship can vary. Many Warlocks love power for its own sake and will break any taboo in exchange for arcane supremacy, while some Warlocks, in effect, revivalists of elder, magical, and religious traditions that may have fallen by the wayside or become maligned in the present area, off for good reasons. Other Warlocks are still mere hapless nobodies entangled in magical arrangements beyond their kin. Patrons are equally diverse. Okay, so it's a different vibe than what I'd normally experience with Warlocks, especially how I would play a Warlock. This is definitely leaning towards like power hungry, outcast, usually getting your power from some sort of evil or dark, unknown type entity, where it's usually, if you've been a follower of my channel, you know I prefer playing good but complicated heroes with good intentions, pitfalls, setbacks, entanglements. And for me as a DM, Warlock has the fact that it has this built-in relationship has always been a plus when it comes to storytelling, creating a narrative. The fact that you kind of have this as a GM, by its nature, a GM controlled NPC that is so important in this PC's life. You are literally the person that gives them their powers, and to me, Warlock seems potentially closer. The patron Warlock relationship seems more personal and more available for the GM to use than, say, a deity bestowing a cleric their powers. Because so often you don't really want the deity to be a feature, like an NPC that is like always called upon. Who knows? But so flavor wise is a little on the like darker side than my normal, where I usually think of Warlocks, but totally in the flavor of them. Let's skip down a little bit. Whether you're an unassuming villager, cunning scoundrel, seeker of arcane power, victim of supernatural circumstance, you have a pact forged with an otherworldly patron, the terms of which set the tone for your entire adventure. What were the circumstances? One thing I wish, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. It's been a hot minute since I've done one of these. One thing I wish Level Up did was like creating a warlock quickly, like starting at level 1 here, just boom, boom, boom. Like I'm not even sure yet exactly like what my like highest ability score should be. Looking at this, when I probably should. It's a feature that I've seen in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and you know, if you're trying to spin up a game quickly, like if you're session zeroing, creating a character and like jumping into like a quick one shot really quickly, it'd be nice to just know, hey, if you're building a warlock, you know, wisdom should be your highest ability score, followed by constitution and either strength or dexterity or something like that. D8 hit points as expected, light armor, simple weapons. Simple weapons is bolded for some reason, awkward. Game set, intelligence and wisdom saving throws, 2 skills. Starting gold, and then you've got different sets, a scholar set, a civilian set, and a scoundrel set. That's pretty cool. I like this art for a warlock. Very summoning shadow serpents, it looks like. Pretty cool. So you then get an archetype at first level. Another thing I really liked about Warlock in 5th edition, you don't have to wait until 2 or 3 to get your subclass. Like make that choice at level 1. Sure, like maybe you're throwing a lot of choices at a first level. Maybe not the easiest to onboard a brand new player, but definitely the coolest. Don't make me wait until 3rd level to get like the key thing I care about. So let's jump. I think we're going to have to jump ahead to look at archetypes. Let's look at those. Archetypes. Expanded spell list. When you choose an archetype, you also choose an expanded spell list that your patron grants you. Choose one patron expanded spell list, and then these spells count as warlock spells for you. The enigmatic and often horrifying patrons of the alienist convey the secrets of psionics and the stars. Some also teach about the darkness between the stars. So I guess they're saying they get the psionics and the stars spell list, and maybe is there a and darkness. Patrons of the diabolist. I don't know how to say that for sure. Often portrayed as demons, devils, and the shadow of the inner self, often grant spells of darkness and fire. Then fairies instruct their spellbound on capricious spells related to bewilderment and mobility. Spiteful Fae of the Unseelie Court also adore spells of darkness. Fairies who guard natural landforms might specialize in a given element like fire. Okay, so there seems to be 3 archetypes. Your alienist, which just kind of covers your Lovecraftian types. Probably your like beholder, mind flayer types. Any other like alien-ish, like weird, capital W weird. Excuse me. So priests of annihilation, students of maddening stars, those corrupted by artifacts from before the creation of the world, alienists are scholars of paradox, chaos, and absurdity in all its forms. These warlocks may be agents of alien forces, investigators seeking to root them out, or merely a passerby caught in the snares of an interplanetary conflict. This is so outside of my wheelhouse, like kind of stuff I would get used to. None of this stuff is stuff I've ever incorporated into a D&D or Pathfinder game, if I'm being honest. Just not really the subject that I normally like bring in, and I've never had a player want to bring that kind of stuff in. Starstruck, archetype at first level, choose one of the following: an alien curse or psionic awakening. So with alien curse, you can place a curse on a creature you see within 30 feet. It lasts for a minute. You deal damage. They take an additional psychic damage that scales. And then you gain a pool of beyond dice, which begins empty. Each beyond die represents a sliver of the future revealed by the use of this gift from your patron. When the cursed creature fails a saving throw, add 1 beyond die to this pool. And you can spend a beyond die when making a saving throw to gain a 1d4 bonus. The pool disappears when you finish a short or a long rest. Cool mechanic, if I'm being honest. Like, pretty on theme, and it's bookkeeping, but if the player can keep track of it, that's pretty cool. Like I like that. I like the feature and the types of feature, which this might be the first one I've seen in a 5th edition derived game. I like seeing this whole like start, like you get access to this new resource, but it starts at 0 and you gain the resource by doing the thing. Almost like a rage meter in like World of Warcraft is something like kind of the first thing that kind of pops in my mind. It's a resource that you use, but you start at 0 and you get access to it by doing the things that like your class kind of wants to do. I really like that. Psionic Awakening, you gain telepathy out to 30 feet. You can communicate with one creature you can see as long as the creature knows at least one language. If you already have telepathy, it increases by 30 feet. Would be a cool stacking feature depending on like the ancestry that you choose. Lineage, I think, in this game. Additionally, when you cast a Warlock spell, you can choose to do so psionically without the need for vocalized or seen components. Once you've used this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So giving you just a little taste of psionics as a Warlock, almost like it's almost meta magic-y. I wonder if a sorcerer subclass or feature gives you access to this kind of like, you don't have to use components or vocalize to cast a spell. I guess it'd be like a silent spell, meta magic, kind of similar. Unless you really like the telepathy bit, it doesn't seem as mechanically powerful or useful as Alien Curse. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting with Level Up, is that you usually have a couple of options. At least one is really good mechanically in combat or even in exploration mode, but really like well above the average I have in my head for a class feature. And then you have a really strong role-playing option with some mechanical benefit. Like Psionic Awakening, really good for a specific character trying to do something. You know what I mean? Mutated Carapace. At 6th level, your skin mutates and sheds, revealing armor-like patches of barnacles, chitinous plates, glowing crystals, scales, or the like. When you take damage except for psychic damage, you can use your reaction to reduce the amount taken by your spellcasting modifier plus your Warlock level. When you've used this feature a number of times equal to half your proficiency bonus, can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Pretty straightforward. Hard to tell. This would scale really well in Pathfinder. 5e, like your spellcasting modifier doesn't go up that often. It only goes up if your ability score goes up or your proficiency bonus goes up. And they basically only go up by 1 every 4 levels. Your Warlock level obviously goes up, but that's not a ton. And it's not a decent amount of bookkeeping. You can basically write down whatever that amount would be on your character sheet once and have to change it but really not that bad. We'll see if the other archetype's 6th level feature is like a similar power level. Subtle Disturbance. 10th level, your Uncanny Presence sows unease and panic. You gain resistance to psychic damage. When you take psychic damage, the creature that dealt psychic damage to you takes an equal amount of psychic damage. Maybe I've been reading Pathfinder 2nd edition too much, but I feel like I know rules as intended. When you take the psychic damage, that is including the resistance. That might be the difference between when you are dealt psychic damage and when you take psychic damage. In between when you are dealt and when you take would be things like your resistance. So the intention is that the creature takes the same amount of damage that you ended up being taken after your resistance. But I can see a player thinking, oh, I'm going to take half damage, but the thing that tried to damage me is going to take full damage. I wonder if there's maybe there's a better way of saying that. And then if you have telepathy, your telepathy is not limited by language. Your telepathy works on any creature within range you can see. Now, I'm normally not a telepathy being powerful kind of guy, but pretty recently, over the past month, I've been getting back into campaign 3 of Critical Role, where one of the characters in that campaign has the ability to use telepathy. And I think a homebrew feature for that character is that they can pick a person and basically they can communicate with them at any distance via telepathy. And I think I underestimate how powerful telepathy can be. Now, it really depends on the player and them doing the right things the right way. You know what, and taking advantage of telepathy whenever possible and, all that kind of stuff. Insidious Seed, 14th level. Psychic tendrils latch onto their victim and don't let go. You learn Dominate Beast and Dominate Person if you don't already know them. For you, Dominate Beast, Dominate Person, and Dominate Monster gain the Ritual tag. When you cast one of these spells, you can change the duration to 1 hour per Warlock level and do so without the need for concentration. Then once you've used the feature, you can't do so again until a long rest. That is pretty powerful. I mean, it's 14th level. Not a ton of people are getting to 14th level. And that's really on theme while being pretty specific, maybe. Or you're a bad person. Dominate person. I mean, they still got to save. But being able to dominate person or monster by ritual, not using up one of your precious Warlock spell slots. All right. Diabolist. I keep wanting to think Diabolist. Mages of Shadow and Blood, devotees of a diabolical order, Diabolist. I don't know. I keep trying. I'm just not sure. Diabolists are practitioners of the dark arts, wielding magics others seem too cruel. These warlocks might willingly consort with demons or make use of exploits within elder laws, both arcane and divine. Their motivations can be myriad, but often include the constant thirst. Their motivations can be myriad, but often include the constant thirst for blood-stained secrets or the desire to take vengeance upon the patron that grants them powers they never asked for, but desperately need. Again, not really usually the flavor. I think Spellbound is probably the closest. The PC that I've kind of like created some backstory and kind of played around with like different character building and different builds is a warlock like orphan who lives on the street, gets taken in by a man, seemingly pretty wealthy man who has a lot of connections and ends up training him in some like martial, and then as the character gets older, realizes that he also has access to magic, even though he's never studied. And so he knows like a handful of spells, and it turns out that he's a warlock of like a Fey Lord. The man who adopted him is a Fey Lord, and essentially like kind of accidentally through like the kind of interesting dynamic and relationship of adopted orphan and pseudo kind of adopted father has created this like connection where magic is being shared between them. That's I don't know, I think that's like the reality. I don't think the character knows where he gets the magic, with the intention of like the DM eventually that becoming revealed in the story somehow. Again, don't think I'm ever going to be able to play that character. Oh well. So at first level, your signature on a certain metaphysical compact grants you a pernicious boon. Choose one of the following. So Dark Blessing, when you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, or when a creature under a spell effect you control is reduced to 0 hit points, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your spellcasting ability modifier and your warlock level. Temporary hit points don't stack, as a reminder, so those will kind of refresh, but pretty cool. Or Diabolical Curse, you can use a bonus action to place a curse on a creature. It's similar to what we saw in the first archetype. Bonus damage when you deal fire or necrotic damage, or when when the cursed creature dies, you regain hit points equal to your spellcasting ability modifier and warlock level. Both of these are not tanky necessarily, but giving you some automatic hit points just as you do your thing is not tanky. Then Dogs of Hell, 6th level. When you kill a creature targeted by your curse or under the effect of one of your warlock spells, in case you picked a Dark Blessing, you can bid your patron conjure into your service either a death dog or a ghoul, your choice. Has its own initiative, has its own turns, and obeys your verbal commands. Creature disappears after a minute when you are knocked unconscious or when it is reduced to 0 hit points. Then at 15th level, that becomes either a hellhound or a wight. And then once you've used this feature, you can't use it again until a short or long rest. Getting the bonuses of like adding that ally to the initiative, to the action economy, is not a small boon. I'd have to look up the stat block on a death dog, but you're getting this at 6th level. This isn't like a CR 1/4, like 1/4, or even probably a CR 1 character or creature. But just giving your opponents another target they have to deal with, doing a little bit of chip damage, Maybe there's some special feature on those creature blocks. Not nothing. I'm actually kind of bummed that you can only use it per short rest. It makes sense, and it's probably not going to come up very much. I like that a lot. I think it's a little more powerful than the 6th level one from the Alienist. Okay, so at 10th level, you can siphon away divine power intended for the gods chosen. And at the end of each long rest, you gain a channel divinity feature. This feature must be from a cleric archetype and granted to clerics of 2nd level. Alternatively, you can instead gain turn undead with the benefit of the command undead empowerment. Once you've used a chosen class feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. That's hilarious. That is really, really funny. I mean, it's on the theme, but man, that's kind of funny. And like, as a game designer, I can totally picture them, sitting at a table, really kind of racking their brain. Okay, what's a cool idea? Oh, what if we gave them a like cleric ability? How would that work? What if we said that like like their patron was able to siphon off like a message or like power intended for a cleric, and they got this instead? It's like, that's pretty wild, really funny. At first I was like, are they gonna like, how's this gonna work? But that's really cool. And the fact that you get to pick it at the end of each long rest, I mean, you can get some really good situational channel divinities, even for the 2nd level. Like, yeah, your 10th level, it's a 2nd level divinity feature, but like, situation could absolutely be turned by that one feature. And you get it every short rest. But you can like pick at the end of your long rest, but you could use it at least twice. All right, so at 14th level, you can condemn a creature to see hell in all its infernal glory. When you hit a creature with an attack, you can use this feature to instantly fling it through the most horrific vistas of the multiverse. The creature disappears until the end of your next turn, reappearing in the space it previously occupied or the nearest unoccupied space. If the creature is not a fiend, it takes 10d10 psychic, fire, or cold damage, your choice. Once you've used this feature, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. That is wild. I mean, the damage. So the weird thing is it does not say when it takes that damage. I would rule that it takes it when you do your normal weapon damage, your normal attack damage. Then it gets flung through the multiverse. Then when it reappears, it takes the 10d10 damage. And that might be errated, but they should clarify like when the creature takes that damage. Overall, I don't think I would ever play a Diabolist outside of maybe a one shot. I'm just too goody two shoes that my games are usually run in a pretty black and white world. I have a hard time seeing a Diabolist or even an Alienist in that part. So far, I'm having a hard time seeing a Warlock working inside of a party really well. A good aligned working towards I guess there's maybe some campaign ideas, like maybe like a revolution type campaign, a fighting against an unjust system of like, victory and dignity by any means necessary type character. Someone who knows that they're forfeiting their soul for the benefit of others. All right, I just convinced myself into it. I just convinced myself into it. Kind of a Percy from Critical Role Campaign 1 or Legend of Vox Machina type. Very much hey, I'm shouldering the weight of this evil in order to make sure nobody else ever has to, and to make the world a better place. I'm sure that's a very popular, I can see a comic book character type. I'm not super well read in that medium. I'm sure that is a very well torn, a little Harry Dresden-esque. But you know what is really Harry Dresden-esque? Spellbound. Owing a fae, specifically maybe an unseelie fae, parts of your magic. Almost as Harry Dresden as it gets. Envoy of the Dreaming, Knights of Eladrin Courts, Victims of Fae Mischief, and Tricksters of all stripes. Spellbound are people ensorcelled by the touch of the fae, driven into the service by fate or devotion. The powers of these warlocks can come from being raised in fae-touch planes, a fairy noble simply smiling upon them, the prize of some bargain they struck, or a toll extracted for their folly. Rewoven with magic. As you take this archetype first level, sows the power of the fae into your being. You learn Druidcraft as a bonus cantrip. Fun. Additionally, choose one of the following. Quickling Sprint. Bonus action, take the dash or disengage action, and you can use it equal to your proficiency bonus. Do it again when you finish a short rest. Basically use it as much as you want. Spellbinder's Curse. You can use a bonus action to place a curse. This is okay. So we got a theme here. Curse. You can choose to do a curse with your first level archetype feature. So same curse, same kind of deal of doing some additional damage when you deal a certain type of damage. This time it's scaling 1d4 when you do thunder or lightning damage. Gain a pool of fairy dice, which begins empty, so similar to the Alienist. When a cursed creature makes an ability check or an attack roll with disadvantage, you can add 1 fairy die to this pool. And then you spend that die on an ability check or attack roll to gain 1d4. So you might think this is way more powerful than the Alienist, because this is when you get to add the 1d4 to an ability check or an attack roll as opposed to a save with the Alienist. But you'll notice that it's not just when the creature takes an ability check or an attack roll. They have to do so with disadvantage. And the curse itself does not give them disadvantage. So you're going to have to come up with other ways of doing that. Now in Vanilla 5e, disadvantage can happen for a lot of different reasons, including by like DM fiat. So like it's not hampering it, but that's kind of the nerf. That's the lever of creating equal power between the Spellbinder's Curse and the Alienist's Curse. Mischievous Mobility, 6th level, new ways to travel. Choose one, can't catch me. When an attack misses you, you can use your reaction to teleport a distance up to your speed. Again, number equal times to your proficiency bonus till you finish a long rest. Okay, there, that a little better. Fairy Dust, get a bag of Fairy Dust. Number of uses equal to your proficiency bonus. You can use a bonus action to sprinkle this fairy dust on yourself or a creature within 15 feet. Creature benefiting from your fairy dust gets a fly speed of 30 with the ability to hover for 10 minutes. That ability to hover is actually pretty important. I don't think players, or maybe some GMs, realize that like in order to stay aloft, you have to use your movement to keep flying. Like you can't end your movement up in the air. It's something like that. Like you can't end your movement up in the air without the ability to hover. Like just because you can fly doesn't mean you can stay there, stand still. And that must be some kind of ruling in Level Up, since they call that out with that parenthetical. And then a creature other than you attempting to use the fairy dust must succeed on an Arcana check, or it has no effect. When you finish a long rest, your previous bag of fairy dust disappears and you receive a new bag. Toadstool Sanctuary at 10th level, you can open a tiny fissure into the Dreaming, which serves as a wellspring of revitalizing energy. When you're in a forest, woodlands, or other healthy green space, you can dance, sing, or chant for a minute to spring forth a circle of mushrooms in the unoccupied space around you. Has a radius up to 15 feet. Creatures resting in the Toadstool Sanctuary for 10 minutes gain the benefit of a short rest. The Toadstool Sanctuary lasts for a week, or until you use this feature again. Creatures who benefit from... Okay, does this give you the ability to have multiple short rests in a day? Or is this just a way for you to be able to have a short rest in 10 minutes compared to what the normal short rest ruling is? Because one of them is really powerful, and the other is still pretty powerful. But like, I don't know what the short rest rule is in Level Up. Like in Pathfinder, you're kind of, there's not really a short rest, but you're expected to take 10 minutes to like use focus spells and activities to heal up. Things like treat wounds, things like bard spells, other focus spells that you need to like cast and then refocus. All that happens within 10 minutes. So it's basically kind of a short rest. If a Level Up short rest is like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, which I think is what Vanilla 5e does. That's usually how I run it. Being able to run it in 10 minutes is one thing. They have a restriction. Because the way I read that, it doesn't say that you can take a short rest. It's that you're just resting for 10 minutes and then you gain the benefits of a short rest, which is different than actually having a short rest. It makes me think you can have multiple short rests in a day. That's how I'm reading that. And they would really need to reword that to convince me that that's not how that feature works. Fairies Retreat, 14th level, instantly traverse the Dreaming to a place of hopeful refuge. Using an action, you can teleport yourself and up to 5 willing creatures you can see within 30 feet, disappearing in flashes of bright color or vortex of leaves. You each reappear no further than 1 mile away in the nearest unoccupied space within 30 feet of your Toadstool Sanctuary, or a fairy ring or monolith consecrated to the Fae, which you've previously seen. If you were already at such a location when you use this feature, you and the creatures instead teleport into or return from the Dreaming. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Okay, this Spellbound is really powerful in very specific ways. But like the fact that the Diabolist doesn't get to teleport itself into the nine hells or the fire plane or anything like that. Now, like, I guess the question would be, why would you want to? My answer would be, you don't know the Feywild like that. If you think going into the Feywild's a good idea, it's usually not. All right, it has taken me 40 minutes to get through the archetypes. So we're going to blast through the rest of this and kind of like, let's look at some pact magic. And then, God, there's so many options for the Warlock. Because first you got to pick a pact. That doesn't cover things like, or I guess they don't have like a martial type, like the, what's it called? The blade lock. You know what I mean? Let's go back and look at the spells real quick. So start with 2 cantrips, spells known, and spell points. So we're not using slots with Warlock, where we're using points, but you get like 2, averages out to maybe 2 a level. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 21. That's kind of, man, really random. Covering up for some empty, no? You have an empty level at 9. Really get 1 extra spell point. I guess you get 5th level spells. That's something. Okay, so a 1st level spell costs 2 spell points, and then 3 points for 2nd level, 5 points for 3rd level, 6, 4th, 7th, 5th. I mean, yeah, that's about, I haven't crunched the math, but that sounds right. Here we go. The manner in which you pursue ever greater power from your patron is defined by the nature of that pursuit through wit, devotion, or fervor. Choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma to be your spell casting ability. Once you make this choice, you cannot change it. Use the chosen ability whenever a spur first use spell casting ability. In addition, you can use that ability modifier when setting the saving throw DC for a Warlock spell you cast and when making an attack roll with one. That's so fun. I love that. That doesn't make me change my idea on any of the pact or the archetype stuff. But the fact that you do get to pick, like, it's not just wisdom. You could do an intelligence Warlock or a charisma Warlock if you wanted to. Really cool. Then we got Eldritch Blast. 1st level. You learn to use your patron's power as a weapon, blasting enemies with an Eldritch Force. Oh, but then you get Eldritch Blast has options. Cool. So Eldritch Disturbance. Action to strike a creature you can see within 60 feet with a reality-distorting curse, blending pain, both mental and physical. Wisdom saving throw, 1d10 force damage on a failure or half on a success. Eldritch Ray. Deadly beam that strikes creatures within 120 feet. The range. Good grief. Ranged spell attack, 1d10 on a hit. Eldritch Scythe. Once per turn, when you would make a melee weapon attack as part of the attack action, or an opportunity attack, you instead make a melee spell attack, lashing out with an ephemeral and unearthly blade. On hit, the target takes 1d8 force damage. In addition, you can choose a creature that you can see that is within range. It takes half as much. So a magical melee attack with sweep, dealing 1d8. Once per turn isn't a problem because you're not going to have multiple attacks anyway. Or Eldritch Whip. Use an action to thrash a creature with scintillating tendril of arcane force. Make a melee spell attack against a creature within 15 feet. 1d6 force damage on a hit. At the end of your turn, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to half the damage you dealt this turn. Last until the end of your next turn. When you hit a creature with your Eldritch Whip and you already have temporary hit points, you can end the temporary hit points early to gain a bonus to the Eldritch Whip's damage roll equal to half the number of temporary hit points you ended early. So ranged but melee, 15 feet, 1d6 on a hit, but then you get this temporary hit points thing, which if you took some of the class options that gave you temporary hit points, end up doing some extra damage. One thing I do notice, Eldritch Blast is only doing the die. You're not adding anything to it. Now, this is the first time I've looked at a spellcaster in level up, so that might just be a thing. You're not adding like your spell casting ability modifier to damage. Or I wonder if it's a consequence of being a Warlock and the fact that like they can't easily write it since they give you an option for what your spellcasting ability is going to be. I'm rereading, looking over attack modifier and save DC. It doesn't mention like damage, that like you should automatically add your chosen ability modifier to any damage you deal with your spell attacks. So interesting. So 2nd level, you gain invocations. You get additional invocations as you go. So these are going to be kind of like feats that you pick from. They'll have level prerequisites. You can also pick a secret which is different from an invocation for some reason. So then at Pact Boon, another option, you get Pact of the Blade. So you get a Pact Weapon, Pact of the Chain, where you get a familiar and tome spell casting. You can get 3 additional cantrips. Pretty cool. Let me see. This weapon has a bonus to attack or damage rolls, or if it deals bonus damage, you can apply these to your Eldritch Blast. It has no effect on disturbance or whip. You can then dismiss the weapon, shunting it into an extra dimensional space, and appears whenever you create your packed weapon thereafter. If the weapon has a bonus to attack or damage rolls, or if it deals bonus damage, you can apply these. Oh, okay. So basically saying, like, if you have a strength or dexterity modifier that adds a bonus beyond the die when rolling attack or damage, you can also add those things to your Eldritch Blast. If you're using a bow, you can add that extra damage to your ray, or if you're using a melee weapon, strength or dexterity can be added to scythe. Understood. Okay. So you kind of want to, ideally, you're probably know what pact you're going to pick when you are picking your first level archetype. Man, a lot of choices. So 4th level, you get a bonus invocation, one to help you traffic in courts, otherworldly and mortal. You can choose an invocation from like any of the lists, I guess, which are different from your normal I don't know. Extra blast, when you use the ray, scythe, or whip as part of your action, as long as you make no weapon attacks, you can attack twice instead of once. And then you're still only attacking once with a disturbance, but it increases its damage. These improvements are based on your Warlock level. This feature otherwise counts as extra attack for the purpose of qualifying for feats, special effects, and like a lot of game designery language there to like cut out some stuff there, as you can see. So that's basically it. Or you get a bonus of more invocations at 6th level from different list than you got at 4th. So it's 2 separate lists that you're picking from. 4th, the invocation of the courts comes from a specific list. Then your Eldritch Evolution at 6th level comes from totally separate lists, it looks like, but they're all invocations, and you get them at different times. But basically those invocations, either courts or Eldritch Evolutions, are the only new class feature that you get from 7th level until 20th level. When you get your like capstone level 20 Dread Thaumaturge, you get an aura that hostile creatures within 120 feet gain vulnerability to necrotic damage, and a creature with resistance to necrotic damage already, or a creature with resistance instead loses its resistance, and a creature immune to necrotic damage instead replaces that with immunity to resistance. And whenever you finish long rest, you can choose a different damage type for your aura. Wow, that's crazy. Then the highest Arcanum, you can cast Plane Shift without material components once between short rests. You're under the constant effects of the Foresight spell. It can't be detected or dispelled by any means short of a wish spell. Then once per day, you can spend a minute in Arcane Contemplation to regain your spent spell points. Yeah, those are all appropriately powerful for a level 20 capstone. Pretty wild. Okay, that's really, really cool. And then we've got all these Eldritch Invocations, which I'm sure are very, very cool. I am coming up on an hour, or it's been 50 minutes of me recording. Hopefully after editing, it's a little shorter. Okay, so let's just try to pick from some of the beginning ones, so no level prerequisites. So you can pick an invocation that gives you extra damage equal to your spellcasting modifier with blast. Okay, so that's, for some reason, they're locking that behind an invocation that you can't get until 4th level. That kind of is a bummer. So these invocations, hang on. At 2nd level, you gain an Eldritch Invocation of your choice. You gain additional invocations as shown on the Warlock table. Then you get more from specific lists. Where are the lists? What? Okay, so maybe their invocations are something. These are not Eldritch invocations that are a part of the Warlock class. These are invocations from some that other classes have access to that you get to pick from a very specific list. No, wait. Choose one invocation from the following. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I got hooked up with like the adept stuff where like maneuvers belong to a list. No, these are actual invocations that are listed under Eldritch Invocations. That's literally this list of invocations. I really whiffed that. So you can, it's a different one. Interesting. It kind of seems like they did this as a way to fill what would otherwise have been empty levels, since so much of the class are basically just picking Eldritch Invocations. They're like, okay, we need a way to give you more other than just saying you get to pick one at every level past second level. So let's put some of them behind a specific list, and then you can pick from that. But you can still pick from that list other times, assuming you have the level requirement. Interesting. Armor of Shadows, you basically just always have mage armor on, and it doesn't emit a magical aura. Courts of the Outer Realms, some society and like RP stuff. Elementalism, when you use your Eldritch Blast, you can spend a point to choose Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Necrotic, Poison, Psychic, Radiant, or Thunder damage. That's pretty cool. 7th level, you learn the Confusion spell, so it looks like some spells. You can manually kind of add a spell into your list using invocations. You get access to medium armor and martial weapons, which you probably want to do if you're going to do Pact of the Blade. So really, as a Pact of the Blade, you don't really come online until, well, I guess if you pick Eldritch Warrior at level 2, you can come on at level 3. Otherwise, you're going to need to pick it at level 4. You really come online then. Otherwise, you're in light armor and simple weapons, which isn't ideal. I still don't know if I completely understand how Pact of the Blade with the bonus damage works, now that I know that you can add your ability modifier to your blasts through an invocation. Not really sure. Squall, you can turn your blast into a 30-foot cone. You can pull creatures with your Eldritch Blast. You can learn the False Life spell. Your familiar can take the attack. So this is how you grow your familiar, through his invocations that rely on your Pact of the Chain feature. Pact of the Blade Life Drinker. You can start dealing extra necrotic damage. You can get a summoning spell. Silent Image. You can increase the amount of temporary hit points you get. So there's actually some pretty, like, I'd have to sit down with all of them and really like kind of plan out a build. But you could absolutely plan a pretty tanky Warlock build built off of your ability to create and give yourself temporary hit points, and then use those hit points to deal additional damage. I'd have to sit there and kind of plan it out, but I even don't think it'd be that difficult to do. Like that, what was that invocation we were just looking at? Noxious Invigoration. Like there's no level lock on that. You could take that at level 2. And there might be some other tanky, giving yourself, mage armor is good. They don't have an unarmored feature, so you got to wear light armor. But if you pick one with a decent dex bonus and you pump some points into dexterity, you can be fairly hard to hit and continuously give yourself temporary hit points as like an additional buffer to stay alive. Pretty cool. Wow, you can get Polymorph at 7th level. Access to Gaius, Bane. You get extra attack at 5th level with Pact of the Blade and that invocation. Then these Secrets of Arcana are like a different thing. You can communicate with your patron using a mirror at 3rd level. Pretty cool. Yeah, this is all really, really cool. I mean, it's a kind of a complicated class, right? Like there's a lot going on with the Warlock. But the Warlock is very cool. And really, this one of the first classes, I mean, obviously true for the other two, but maybe it just kind of felt a little more vague because they've got martial abilities that are located outside of the class. And I didn't dig a ton into those. But obviously, like, you're going to try to stack and focus in specific areas and get better at the things that you're good at, to try to like maximize on those bonuses. But maybe because it's the Warlock's stuff isn't really about spells, and all of its abilities are located here inside of its class chapter, its section. It feels very like you want to plan out your levels ahead of time, like, and know what kind of Warlock, like what style of play that you want. Gives you a lot of options to like use your backstory and role playing to craft the exact character you're trying to create, while also building in this very cool effects and bonuses. Really, really cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading that, though it was kind of slow going there for a second while getting through the archetypes. Really, really cool. I think all of those none of this felt totally new to level up, right? If I'm as I'm thinking about it and looking at it, everything just seems dialed in a little bit more. But in reality, this is pretty similar to vanilla 5e. While if I had to guess, I think the Warlock in level up scales better than the vanilla 5e Warlock. But in order to scale, you need to plan it out and make kind of optimal choices. I have a feeling the Warlock is a class that has, I think has a few, but it might still suffer from vanilla 5e having a like one commonly accepted good. I think the level up has multiple paths. Like we said, you can go Pact of the Blade and go for a, martial with these like dark otherworldly powers. You can focus on defense and kind of being tanky with your temporary hit points, attacking people at range, dealing out additional damage based on those temporary hit points, just kind of always making it really hard for you to die or even like get close to being dead, which is a very cool theme for a Warlock. So really, really cool. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for coming along. I'm enjoying reading Level Up. I hope you are. The stats say you are, but leave thoughts in the comments if you played Level Up. Have feedback on Level Up. Would totally love to hear your thoughts on it. And like I said, if you've been around the channel a little bit and you haven't seen a video like this one, if it looks different than my usual video, check out a video link in the doobie-doo where I kind of talk about that. And if you have feedback about this new visual style, you can leave it in that other video. Hope you have a great one. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Catch you later. Peace.